Look at all this loot! DJ, none for you! Welcome back, I am Captain Xavier, and today I'm going to be installing the absolutely fantastic Select Fire kit that was sent to me by nfstrike.com to continue to upgrade the Stryfe that I've been putting parts in since they've been sending them to me in the attempt to eventually build an excellent war primary. I could use it for all sorts of other things. It already does have an artifact kit in it, and I do actually need to do one additional upgrade involving that kit. They asked me to actually put the barrel in it because I had not done so, so I will be putting the barrel in it as well as installing this Select Fire kit. I've found the instructions on Taobao. They actually do have them in English and are fairly detailed, so hopefully I will be able to work everything out and not break anything. And, yeah, should be a lot of fun. So let's get this thing taken apart. Alright, it took a little bit of filing in the barrel in order to be able to get the plastic sleeve inside it, but it now is completely seated and still fits, and the cosmetic kit that's going to be going over the top of it still fits, so we'll be able to get the numbers on that. Alright, well, back to this kit. This kit is pretty stinking cool, and I want to get it installed. So first thing, we're going to, of course, take out the original pusher. This kit is supposedly fairly drop-in. There is some work that you have to do. And like I said, I will have the instructions in the description, or the link to it on Taobao, which is in English, which explains everything. It even tells you what tools you need and warns you not to hurt yourself. Starts out with, take it apart, remove the original parts. Tells you not to get rid of the screws, though, because you are going to want to keep them, apparently. Okay, you do want to remove the original board that was on here with the thermistor and all that. That needs to go, or it'll mess with the whole thing. You need to take out the battery dividers. Okay, and now there is a little bit of shell cutting involved, which they show you can do with a pair of pliers and a razor blade. I'm, of course, going to do it with a Dremel. Then we need to cut a hole for some wires to go through into the battery tray area. So you just need a little bit of a slot cut. Okay, and it's this section with this whole cluster of wires needs to be able to fit into that little hole. So just needs to be big enough for that. Now there's some cutting on this side. Ah! So apparently this little tab, the top of the 3 tabs on the far side of the shell, needs to get removed. Now we install the motor base. Now what's really cool is they show you how to install all of this stuff without the need for a drill. So they provide you with self-tapping screws and show you how to use them to drill your hole. So you use the screw to drill in from the opposite side. Alternatively, of course, you can just use a drill. Okay, so that creates the mounting holes. The screws will then actually come in from the battery housing. So it screws in from the other side to make it a much more solid connection. And you take it back out again. So this is just all getting everything ready. Now the motor comes installed, but you have to take it back out again. And now we're going to put it back in again. And it is a worm gear, so it will not spin unless you want it to. And you need to have the rocker arm in the right position. All right, now we put the circuit board, the main board, in. Make sure that it is a tight fit. It is. Install voltage rising modulator. So they have it in here going the other direction, but I can't put it in that way because of the new switch that I replaced when I did the worker kit. So I'm going to need to put it in there upside down, which means I think I'm going to need to take off this tab because that tab seems to be interfere. Oh, no, I guess not. We're good. Okay, just needed to shuffle the cables around a little bit. All right, so it also comes with a voltage regulator, which they have you put down here in the handle because it, I assume, was the only place that there was enough room. All right, now we install the trigger. So we have this. Which sits right on top of the trigger. It's a little bit different than the one they have. Theirs has a screw coming out here, but it looks like they've now have a tab. And there appears to be a screw on the top that you screw down to hold it in place. Okay, now we have the trigger, which sits right there, which is why they had you keep the original screw. The wonderful little feature, the little plate that holds the trigger switch acts as a beautiful thing for holding down all the cables on the inside. All the cables run underneath it, which is just very nice of them to do. Now I need to take a bunch of it off so that I can do something that wasn't mentioned earlier that I should have spotted. We obviously need to solder in power. This kit is designed to simply run off whatever power you are running to power your flywheels. It is not designed like the older one to run off its own power that's up in the battery housing, or in the jam door, I mean. Because that is where the electronics for the select fire kit is located. You just wire that directly to the negative and positive on the battery housing. Now there are a whole bunch of things getting plugged into that board in the back there, as you can see, but they're fairly intuitive. So the one closest to the back motor, to the pusher motor, is for the pusher motor. The next one is the only small one, so that's the only one that can go there. The ones that are a little bit confusing are either the power or the trigger, but they're soldered in such a way that they only comfortably fit in one direction. So you'd have to kind of go out of your way almost to get them wrong. So that, yeah, it goes trigger, then power, then voltage regulator. And then this one on the back here is the newest thing that they added, and I'm really pleased that they included it. The selector switch. All right. So the actual selector system. Now, I am going to be obstinate, and cool thing is it is designed to go either right or left, and gosh, but that just gives me even more respect for whoever designed this. They didn't have to make it ambidextrous, but they did. That installs on the battery door and then goes through that little hole. And there is just a place that it plugs in. And it looks like it is designed to still allow you to open the jam door at least a little bit. They give you enough cord so you can still open it and unjam something if it gets jammed. Okay, that is the basic kit done. Okay, this is the final part, and this is an extra part. You don't actually need this, but the kit they sent me had it. And it is really, really cool. The only downside is this part is not left-hand friendly. As far as I can tell, I don't think you would be able to mount it on the other side, at least not in the same spot, because that's where the battery housing is. This is a selector switch that gets mounted to the outside of the shell that then gives you just a very cool little toggle that allows you to select between single shot, 3-round burst, and full auto. And if you're right-handed, you can just flip it with your thumb. If you're left-handed, you can, but it's not quite as ergonomically friendly. I'm going to risk it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to risk it and try to make this a little bit more left-hand friendly. Now, I'm going to have to do a couple of things. One, I'm going to have to make this cable longer, which is going to mean I'm going to need to cut it and splice in more because it is not designed to reach as far as I need it to reach. Okay, so you use the screws they created to put the holes through to the other side that then are going to hold the plate on. And then you use the big screw that they provide you, also as a drill, to drill out the hole where the rod goes through. You then take it all back off again, because that circle's sole purpose was to act as the guide for you to be able to drill that hole. So once you've drilled the hole, you don't need it anymore. All right, there it is, conveniently where I can reach it with my trigger finger. So I don't have to reach around with my thumb to get where it normally would be. But I am not entirely convinced that it's going to work yet. Alright, I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is I didn't break it, and it still works beautifully, and this thing is magnificent, and I'll go into that in a second. The bad news is you cannot move the switch up to here because it ends up interfering with the rotational arm. Not with the pusher itself, which is what I was worried about, but the actual, the arm that rotates, that moves the pusher back and forth, unfortunately, will not allow you to move this up to here. And so I had to move it back, and so now if I want to switch it, I'm going to have to, you know, move my thumb around, or I could do it with my finger, or I suppose I could reach over and do it with my other hand, but it's not as ergonomically nice as being able to do it with my trigger finger right there, or for righties, being able to just flick it with your thumb. So that's unfortunate. I vaguely considered seeing if there was some way to move it to this side, but I don't think it would have worked trying to put it into the battery housing. This is acceptable. I mean, it would have been nice if I could have moved it to there, but it just was not in the cards. I do then, of course, have those holes, but luckily they gave you enough extra screws that I was able to fill the screw holes with screws, but I do still have that larger one. So what I will just have to do eventually is make a plate. Make my own little decorative plate, maybe a name plate, who knows, and put it over there and use these screw holes, or just, you know, actually I really like the idea of a nameplate now that I think about it. Kind of a nameplate that goes over here. If I ever name this blaster, that is what'll happen. I'll put a nameplate on it and cover up that hole. So, okay, let's talk about this kit, because this kit is magnificent, but we're gonna clean up the detritus so you don't have to deal with the distraction of the mess. Alright, well, let's talk about this kit and see if it's actually still gonna work for me. It is the Select Fire Kit, the new Select Fire Kit from NF Strike. They sent it to me to review because they're awesome. And it installs it very, very easily. The video probably makes it look more complicated than it is, but that was because I was, you know, making it up as I go along and trying some unnecessary extra stuff that unfortunately didn't work out. To turn on the Select Fire Kit, because it does require to be turned on or off, which is something you're gonna need to remember. You're gonna drain your batteries. You hold down the middle button, green light comes on, and then once the red light blinks, then it's on. And then unfortunately, it's going to be hard to really understand that it's working because of the noise, but right now it's on single shot. So when I pull the rev trigger, if you pull it and hold it, it just fires the once. You then move the selector switch down, and now it's firing in 3-round burst. And finally, full auto. Alright, I know how much you guys love firing demonstrations, because let's face it, they're the good stuff, but it's dark outside, so we're gonna have to do it in here. We'll start with some single shot stuff. Then some 3-round burst. And then some full auto. Fantastic. The full auto fires so fast that the least you can do when you have it on full auto is a 2-round burst, I found. So that's kind of neat. Anyway, back to the discussion. Without this installed, this is an optional kit. Not all of the kits come with it. The selector switch. You simply select each one of these. This one is single, burst, and full auto. You can also use these buttons. There's instructions to adjust the rate of fire. You can actually do that simply using that. There's instructions on the blink codes to tell you what they're doing. I'm not going to go into that. I like the rate of fire. I'm not going to mess with it. I currently have it running on 3 IMRs and a dummy battery, which is within the voltage tolerance. This thing can supposedly handle up to 18 volts without dying. And so if you wanted to have a higher rate of fire, or definitely a higher FPS out of the flywheel motors, you would need to put in the 4, but I'm going to stick with 3. With 4, this thing will hit, I believe, 140 FPS with this kit, with the worker kit that I have in here. It's less than that. I think I was getting 100, 120, somewhere in there, when I tested it with just the 3, which is where I want to be for Nerf Wars, because much more beyond that, and you're getting into real NIC levels, and since we're mostly public Nerf Wars, I don't want to go much above that if I'm going to be shooting at small children, especially since they're sneaky and they run up behind you and you spin around and shoot them in the face, and it's bad when you're firing, 140 FPS or higher. So, I mean, it's bad if you hit him in the face when it's 100 FPS. It's bad if you hit him in the face with a stock blaster. Don't shoot people in the face. Anyway, that is how this kit works, and gosh, it is beautiful. I love that it is, I mean, it's a regulator with a higher rate of fire that's dropped into a Stryfe. Not ambidextrous. That is the only thing that I will complain about. Since I am left-handed, we are unfortunately only 1/10 of the population, and so such things are not always made with us in mind. But I do not think that is anything particularly wrong with the blaster. Making it more ambidextrous, I don't know how they would do it. I really can't think of a way that you could put the selector over here. I would have loved it if I could have moved it up to where I wanted it, so I could have gotten it with my trigger finger, which would have just been fabulous. And I still kind of can. I mean, I can reach up there and get it with my trigger finger. It's just not quite as nice as it would have been up there, and it's definitely not as nice as it is for a right-handed person. So, for lefties, just be aware of that. That selector switch is not going to be quite made for you. You can reach over and get it with your other hand. You can get it with your trigger finger, but just a beautiful, nice little kit. So, I am now going to put the cosmetic stuff that they sent me onto this, but that's going to be another video. To turn it back off again, you then simply hold down the center button again until the red light comes on, and then you let go, and it turns off. So, that's how that works. I will have the link to this kit from NF Strike, who gave it to me, as well as a link to the Taobao page that has the instructions for it, because I don't think the NF Strike site has the full instructions. So, that should help you guys out. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, put them in the comment section, and as always, thank you guys for watching.